Ready?
Yeah, I'll turn the music off.
Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. Well, here we go. Well, welcome everybody to the first ever Mastermind panel. I'm excited to be doing this and to share this with you guys. We have some great content to go over today, and I have some great panelists. We have one more person, Paul Sokol, who will be joining us in a minute, but I'll let Greg and Nathan introduce themselves. Greg Jenkins is with Monkey Pod Marketing, and he's a super smart dude. And Nathan Paris is with On the Fuse in down south in Australia. So, Greg, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do, what you specialize in.
Right on. First of all, I'm really excited about this. Jordan, you and I have been talking about it for a little while, but I'm excited to see this take place, and seeing all the posts and all the questions and activity coming in ahead of time got me really geeked up to do something like this and participate. So, yeah, I have Monkey Pod Marketing. That's my company. I started it in May, and so we're in month 4 or 5 now, and the focus is on education for small businesses specifically. So, of course, with my background, I worked at Infusionsoft for a few years, and so the natural first couple courses and the bulk of the content I've created so far has been really heavily focused on Infusionsoft. But long term, I just want to do education for entrepreneurs in general, independent of what software they choose. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm trying to stay away from the implementation game because I know there's plenty of folks out there doing that, and kind of take a different approach, which will start with the kind of putting that educational foundation in place first.
Awesome. Nathan, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, what you specialize in.
Yeah, so we're down here in Australia. Been here about 3 years now. We're 100% Infusionsoft. We specialize. Really, our ideal client is more actually the done for you. So we're really about working with the clients on the strategy, but also doing the implementation. So the clients that usually come to us are actually more looking to say, hey, we need the strategy, but we also want it done for you. So that's usually what we're working on. And we're looking at from more point of view too is revenue. I think everything, we're not looking at from point of view of trying to teach them they're all technical, but really just saying how can we increase revenue. So that's it.
Awesome. Great. Well, cool. Well, Paul Sokol will be joining with us in just a minute. He's actually downstairs at in the Infusionsoft tailgate party early to come do this. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. Probably should introduce myself as well. I've been around Infusionsoft for a really long time, 10th employee. Started out in the support department and just kind of worked my way around the company. I ran the training team for about 3 years and started the Mastermind webinars that Infusionsoft puts on, and kind of got away from that over the last couple of years just with my role, and I missed it, and so I decided that this is a great opportunity for me to kind of get back to staying in touch with everybody and staying kind of relevant, I guess, with Infusionsoft customers. And so I'm going to keep doing these things really as I can. We'll have some regular panelists. We'll have new people, new faces all the time. The only little caveat is that on Saturday I'm leaving for about 3 weeks to go on a little excursion to New Zealand. Me and a few other people from Infusionsoft are going on a 500-mile bike ride. So that's bicycles, not like motorbikes. Bicycles, packing all of our gear, 10 days of riding, camping, all the way, it's in the South Island, so from Christchurch, if you know the area, all the way down to a little bit past Queenstown. So super excited for that, but there will be a little bit of a lag between this time and the next time that we do a call. So just keep that in mind. So when Paul gets on, he'll just kind of join us, but I'll give you a little bit about Paul. He's been around Infusionsoft for a really long time. Started out as a customer of Infusionsoft and found his way to the Phoenix area, got a job here, and started out as a consultant. And he's made a great name for himself with being kind of the expert when it comes to campaigns and building automated experiences. He likes to call himself a couple of different names, but the one that's kind of stuck is the Campaign Builder Mad Scientist. The other one is the Automated Experience Designer, I think is what it is now. So we're excited to have him on the call as soon as he can finish cleaning up downstairs and join us. So, all right. With that, what we're going to do today is I have a couple of campaigns that I want us to go through and look at. These are campaigns that were submitted by a couple of customers, and also if we get to it, we got one of Paul's campaigns that we can go in and make fun of, or be really nice about. We'll probably be really nice about it, but we're going to go through these campaigns and just kind of talk through them and talk about what they're doing, what we see that works, what we see that doesn't work. And then also maybe different ways that we could structure the campaigns to make them a little bit more effective. A couple of things just so you guys are aware. If you look on the left-hand side, you should see a box that says Q&A. If you have questions along the way, you can type your questions in there. If one of you that's viewing could actually type in a question so that I make sure that it works, that would be awesome. I believe it's on the left-hand side. It also might be on the right-hand panel as well. I
see Q&A. I also see chat. So I don't know what the distinction is between those two.
Yeah, I don't either. Let's see.
I think the Q&A lets you actually track it to say which questions have been answered.
Gotcha. So let's do that. I think the group chat actually is probably just for us, Greg. So this is a new service. This is the first time that I've used this. So I think there will be a couple little hiccups like that, but yeah, I think the group chat is just for us, the panelists. I'm not sure if everybody else sees it, but
then they can ignore the welcome everyone that I wrote.
So yeah, I'm not entirely sure though either. So it could be that they see it, it could be that they don't. So we'll just kind of go with that. But yeah, if somebody could type in a Q&A question there, that would be awesome. But let's go ahead and get started. The first campaign that I want to review is from one of our customers. His name is Chad Henley, and Chad owns a, there we go, hey Chad. Chad asked our first question, and it looks like it worked. Good job. Chad has a cleaning company, and he's got a campaign here that I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So this is Chad's campaign, and Chad sent this in because, in his words, there's kind of a little bit of confusing structure, and it's just kind of like what's going on here. So what I want us to do, Greg and Nathan, is just kind of go through this and kind of talk through what's going on here. First, let's look at the structure of the campaign, and then let's get into how we could potentially either restructure it or make it better, or what's working, what's not working. So, from my understanding from the description that Chad gave, is there's a couple of ways that people can come into this campaign. It's all basically designed to get people to ultimately book cleaning with them, but there's a couple of ways they can come in. They can either request the coupon and then get a quote over the phone or online, and then they can book. So that of this could happen or this could happen, and how do we handle or do we treat those things differently? So is that, you guys kind of with me on that? Does that kind of make sense?
Yep.
So is that phone quote tag, is that happening after he's given the quote and he's just tagging it somewhere, or is that actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that's how that would work there, is that if somebody takes a quote over the phone, he'll apply that tag. That's what this one here says. And then it's looking at, when we looked at this decision diamond here earlier, it looks like it's looking at fields on the contact record to decide which of these different sequences it throws the people into. So if the contact's quote end of sales contains quote only, then throw them into the drip marketing. If it's a don't contact, then put them in don't contact. If it's out of area, or put them into out of area. So that's my understanding, and I would imagine that this one does something similar, where it's Yeah, so if it's in the service area or not in the service area, we put it in out of area. If it's in the service area and the tags don't contain, and this one looks like it's not finished, then it would throw them into that one as well. So yeah, so my initial reaction is it looks like there's a lot going on here for what we're trying to do, and I'd almost say there's too much going on. What are your guys' initial thoughts? Greg?
Yeah, I think.
Greg, you go first, and then Nathan.
I'm with you. It feels like there's a lot going on, and I'm kind of seeing the top and the bottom as these separate but parallel occurrences, right? So there's like a coupon, and then maybe an automated quoting process at the top. Mm-hmm. And then on the bottom, we see the people who came from the phone quote or received the quote over there, and that looks like it's its own entry point as well. So what I'm wondering is, is there a duplicate effort happening here, right? Are the things that are happening, all those potential outcomes, are those the top half and the bottom half redundant, right? Is there a way that we can maybe consolidate some of those and just, depending on where they came from, take that expression of interest and put them into the appropriate part? Potentially, I'm seeing maybe two different campaigns, like set it up once for just the phone quote and then clone and duplicate it for the people who got the quote in an automated fashion. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, but I guess I don't have enough of the backstory to know why it was put together this way.
Okay. Nathan, what about you? What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a bit cluttered. I think whenever I see this, I would have a feeling, if I was talking to Chad, that what's your goal? Because it's kind of going everywhere, and like I said, you got kind of duplicate effort happening here. So are we actually clear even how we're actually going to, how we're talking to that person on the phone? One concern I would have too is it's coming in from just a tag on that quote, but how's that person actually talking to him on the phone? So we're actually it seems like we're almost duplicating like stages here, and it starts from a tag of a quote, but I want to see, okay, when someone's on that phone, are they reading the script? Like, do they have a form up in front of them that they're reading the script, they're going through, and then they're doing a decision based on that form, which then puts them into one of these stages. But I kind of think the same thing. I think I'd be breaking this up probably. Second, I see any campaign that's going up and down like this and not kind of left and right, it usually means that there's probably some focus missing, and either you should be breaking them into multiple campaigns, but structure and focus, I think I'd be looking at for sure.
Yeah. So Chad actually just asked a great question. He said, how do you avoid people getting duplicate emails? If someone gets a phone quote and does a book it now, so they get the phone quote and then they book it, how do they not go into those two campaigns? So for me, I think and he said the phone quote is a form. So
yeah.
So I think for me, like what I would look at is when I go and build a campaign like this, the first thing that I do through and actually build out what I call the perfect path, right? Which is if they do all the things that I want them to do, and that goes, like to your point, Nathan, in that horizontal line as opposed to a vertical. And then I go back and I look at where are the points that they can deviate from that perfect path, and then that's where I add in the branching. So I almost wonder if maybe we could go and just do the skeleton of this campaign. We would do it. Does that sound? Let's call this the Mastermind panel version. Book it. What do you call it? Book now. Hope that's okay, Chad, that we do that. But so when I'm dragging these out, so the first thing that I'm going to say is that this is going to be the phone quote, right? And this one I would actually probably use an internal form goal as opposed to a tag.
Yeah. I think one of
what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning for as well. I was going to ask Chad, is that tag a result of a form that's somewhere else, or is it being applied manually after the call? Because if it's being applied manually, then it should almost certainly be an internal form, or potentially a note template just to indicate that took place. I think one of the misconceptions about internal forms is that it's only to be used for when you're adding a contact. And, so a lot of times people will use tags because, oh, the contact's already in my database. But the reality is it's just as easy to use an internal form for contacts who are already there just to add new information, or more importantly, to trigger automation like in this scenario. And that's not uncommon where people will use a tag goal just because it's easy, but then it contributes to the redundant or unnecessary tags that people end up complaining about long term, saying, oh, I've got too many tags or they don't mean anything. And a lot of times it comes from a scenario like this where they could have used a more appropriate goal method.
Yeah, and to build on that too is you can use those internal forms for any type of flow or state. So I think you can actually start saying, okay, first stage is this, then second stage is this. And also, the great part about using that internal form is going to a script, because the second I'm hearing, again, phone quote, that means someone's actually doing the sale. You're working a conversion. So you can actually put the script on that internal form, and you can just read that off that, saying, okay, Mr. Yeah, blah, 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 and going through it. So that's actually part of the form itself. And then you can be also switching all those decision diamonds. Instead of having it based on the actual fields, you can actually be off of the form itself as well. So I think it's definitely, at least with our clients, it's definitely much easier for them to use those internal forms for that type of, for that quote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he just added a little bit of clarity here. He said that he uses JOT form because it allows him to calculate fields and also take credit card info. So that makes sense if you're trying to do that. Although I would question why you're not putting the credit card info into Infusionsoft and doing the order form that way. There's lots of ways that can happen, especially with inputting a manual order, which is easily done in Infusionsoft, and we can actually go into that. Maybe that's another whole mastermind panel. But yeah, so regardless of how the form's getting put in, whether it's an internal form or a tag if you're using something external, this is the way that I would at least structure the very beginning to distinguish between people that have a phone quote or an online quote. And the reason for that, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong here, is that one of the concerns that Chad had is, well, what happens if they do an online quote first and then they come and get a phone quote, right? You actually could look at the perfect path as this instead, right? Where really you want people to do an online quote and then call in to do a phone quote, but people could actually just call in, and what you would need to do is just make sure that you set this goal to be able to be achieved by any contact. And that way, when they get the phone quote, it's gonna kill this online quote follow-up and start this phone quote follow-up as well. So for me, either of those two options where you have the two branches coming into one sequence or this one is appropriate. What are your guys' thoughts with that?
Yeah, one addition I would make here is right off that first online quote goal, you might want to put a branch down in case they have already submitted a phone quote, right? So if they entered through the phone quote form, and then they later come back and submit an online quote just to compare and see, hey, was it any different? You can at least use that information and say, hey, looks like we've already delivered your quote, but if you want to have another conversation about it, give us a call. And that might be the exception, not the rule. I don't know how often something like that happens, but I could see somebody kind of backtracking the other way.
Yeah. So here on oh, go ahead, Nathan.
No, I was just going to say, in that bucket, I think you definitely want that bucket, and why not have a task then that says give them a call?
Yeah.
Again, I mean, if you've already done a phone quote and they actually submit that, that's a perfect time to actually have a touch point to pick up the phone and to say, hey, I just saw you did that again. I thought I'd just give you a call instead.
Yeah, I think that's a great option there. Hey, Paul, welcome.
Hola.
What's up, Paul?
Paul, we're right now we're through Chad's campaign. We're just basically kind of restructuring it so that it makes a little bit more sense and it flows a little bit better.
Perfect.
So that's where we're at. Guys, with this bucket here that we talked about, where would you connect this to? Would you connect it to here, or would you connect it to here, or would you not connect it?
I think, like Nathan said, I would probably throw a task in there to reach out to them, and then
Right.
just dead end it with the task completion goal once they've done that.
Yeah. So.
Because on the task, you're either going to use the phone quote itself, that form, again, or they're going to recognize, hey, we've already done that.
Great. Yeah, I think that's a great idea there. And then would you connect this up here?
Well, I think that's one of those times where we need kind of a completion scenario, right? The task is going to dictate what happens next, the nature of how that phone call goes.
Okay.
So
is that where? So let me actually put this in here because I think I missed a step here, where what I would probably do is put in that they bought something, right? That they signed up.
Yeah.
Hey, Chad, are you using the Infusionsoft e-commerce, or are you processing those?
I think that he said that he wasn't, but he might. I'm not sure.
Okay. Does that just change the goal type if it is?
Yeah. It's so however you're recording that that the order happened, whether it's a tag or you're using Infusionsoft to do that, then you would just change this to be that. So so I would then, you have to have this sequence here. So there would be some sort of sequence, but then they're either going to sign up or they're not going to sign up, right?
Yeah, and there was something in that first campaign about people being out of their area, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that was like people who are out of the area they service. This is a physical cleaning service, right?
Right. Yeah, I think there were, because they do. I think it was at Houston. So I think if you're outside Houston, then I think that's out of area.
Yeah. Okay. So coming off the online quote or phone quote, either one of those could be leading into some sort of, hey, sorry, you're outside of our region, but we'll notify you if our service areas expand, or we'll help you find somebody local. That type of thing.
Yeah, so you'd connect it like this. So now we're starting to get into a little bit of the madness, that Chad was trying to avoid. How do we not get into that? You know what I mean? Because we're starting to get all over the place with this.
The one thing I would say is that phone quote form can be that central point. You can almost turn that into the only point of communication. When you go in and you talk to someone, you use that one, and then that triggers where it goes next. Because we're looking at, like, they either do this or they do that. But if someone comes in and they already have a phone quote already, we do that task, we could still be using the same, it's almost like a control form, right? We're just saying communication. What have we done with this person? We send them the quote, and it's not necessarily going to simplify the campaign, but it might simplify the actual operations of doing it. Because I'm just seeing, if it's all these tags everywhere, I'm looking more from the point of view of who's actually doing it. And if it's just tags everywhere, I think it gets really confusing. And putting all that into one master form, like this phone quote, might just simplify actually using it. But I think if you're going to want to talk to these people differently, like out of service, in service, and we have to have them broken out of it, right?
Yeah. And so one thing too that I think, and I want your guys' feedback specifically, Paul. One of the things that, to your point, Nathan, is that I think tags get overused a ton. In this case, I think it's appropriate for a tag to get applied. But in this case, instead of this actually being a tag, what I would actually do is probably do a note applied, and then have the tag get applied here inside of the sequence that says that they didn't sign up. This is one of the underused features in Infusionsoft, and what it does is actually records a history in that context history that says they didn't do what we wanted them to. In this case, they didn't sign up. So we know when that happened. We know when it was applied. We can put any details in there that we want, and we can go back and start looking at some of the history some of those things.
Just to go back to this, is that there's a human involved in this on the quoting. So because it's not an automated quote. Those notes are everything. Before I pick up that phone call to do that follow-up call, I want those notes in there as a human. I don't want to go look at tags. Tags are for computers. Notes are for humans. So when I bring up this contact record and I'm going to get on the phone call, I need to actually look at those notes. And this is exactly what you're saying, is use notes and for the human. So I agree 1,000% on that.
Yeah. The other benefit to notes, which a lot of people overlook, is that they can be applied multiple times. So a tag, of course you can apply it and remove it and reapply it, but you don't have a record of that first application once you've done that, with the exception of goal history. But with the note, specifically, they could come through a second time for a different business, even if they switched where they're working, and if they decide not to sign up again, now you've got that record. Hey, this guy's been through our funnel 3 times, and each time he's wound up in this same channel, that type of thing. So notes give you not only that type of human flexibility, but also for historical reporting, they tend to be pretty useful.
Yeah. Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
Everything that you've said to this point, all three of you, is totally accurate. In my opinion, it's much easier to apply a note than it is to apply a tag, because that introduces the potential for human error. Because now I have to remember what category is it in, what tag is it, and make sure I'm doing that right. With a note goal, it's much easier training. I would never have anybody ever apply a tag manually. If you need to apply a tag manually, quote, just use a note goal. And the only other thing that I would suggest here, if this is my business, is I would put some type of prefix before the name of that goal, the note goal, maybe like something like quote dash didn't sign up. And then that way, if there's multiple notes based on, if there's more than one kind of note for this part of the sales process, for the end user, they're going to be grouped alphabetically. So when we're designing things for workflow, like internal forms, I would also do the same thing with the phone quote internal form as well. We have to not only consider the external benefactor of the lead that's experiencing this automation, we also have to consider the internal user and making it as easy as possible to ensure that we're minimizing that human error. So I know I'm just coming into it late, but in the online quote follow-up sequence, I'm assuming there's a task in there. In the actual body of the task, I would explicitly say, call them and then fill out the internal form, phone quote. And then that way it's brain dead simple, and it should minimize any confusion and also make training much easier when new people come in.
Yeah, spot on. I think that's what, it started with saying in the phone quote, have a script there. This is exactly what you say. And then in your task, after you do this, go fill out this form or apply this. No, I think it just make people's lives easy. Tags do not make people's lives easy.
No.
Yeah.
Or, hey, Paul, to build off what you said, and Jordan, I don't know what you had envisioned for that untitled sequence in the middle there between the task and the note, but coming off that task, I would probably in the body of the task give them instructions for, hey, depending on how this call goes, apply one of these notes, right? Because my fear in looking at this is that they could apply that quote didn't sign up note, right? If they have a conversation with them and they don't sign up, they could apply that note, and then if they go complete that task, it kind of moves them back and jumps them in there as well. And it's kind of a behavioral thing where people have a tendency to, all right, apply this note, now I'll go mark it complete, where with the way you had it set up, it would have ended up putting them in 2 spots.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot.
You might even have a third option off that phone quote internal form that just says, hey, they didn't sign up. And then you don't even need that whole note goal. And then it can just be one more pathway off of that decision note.
So you're saying off of this, have another one? Or
No,
off of this?
Off the phone quote, yeah, right there. Again,
Yeah.
I'm coming into this kind of blind, but I'm assuming that we're going to speak to them on the phone, and if they don't sign up, let's use that internal form as that central hub for all potential interaction based on their specific action of requesting an online quote.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Nathan was saying too, is that you could just use this to control everything. And if that's the case, you would just do this and connect it right to this. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
And then in your decision diamond, you would just say if the internal form value, radio option of didn't sign up, and put into this didn't sign up sequence.
Yep. Nailed it.
Gotcha.
The nice thing too is with that last release too is that if you're using that internal form, you can have one field as like notes, and now that can get merged into a note to go into there. So you can take that entire form and merge it into a single note, so that after you fill in that form, everything can be used then to go into a note. So that after that call, everything gets put in there too. So I'm loving that from that last release. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Does that make sense, or did I just something?
That makes a ton of sense.
Getting blank looks. All right.
No, that's just Greg, how he always looks.
Normal.
He's always confused.
Oh, okay. All right.
Cool. All right. Well, let's. So, is there any other feedback or thoughts that you guys have around this kind of redesigned structure here before we move on to the next one?
Should signed up be an entry point?
Potentially, yeah. If somebody just calls in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think we need to do that one on that one.
But and then just because I'm kind of OCD, if you move the out of area sequence above the flow, you're not going to have those lines crossing. It's easier to visually consume.
There you go. Move it up a little bit, like that.
Yep.
Cool.
Easier to understand.
You read my mind, Paul. I was biting my tongue on that.
Oh, come on. That's the whole point of this, Greg. Don't keep your mouth shut.
Functionally, it works just fine, right?
Right.
But it is about visual consumption, and you want to be able to look at it without feeling that overwhelm. And a lot of times, if you have those extra lines, it can be distracting, and it can make it look more complicated than it is.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the thing is you want to build this so that when you come back in this, 3 years from now, you say, what the hell is this? You don't want to be so confused that you can't figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah, you want to read it like a story. I want to be able to start to the left and actually just read down that center thing and say, oh, this is my perfect client. I got an online quote, then I followed them up, I got him on the phone. You know what I mean? Like, actually just as a story. And so it will go OCD even more when you get the untitled sequence on the right. That would just kill you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. So you want me to go rename these real quick?
No.
I think we're probably ready to move on. I know we've got more to get to.
This is just for check a type right. There we go. All right. So cool. So that's Chad's. Thank you, Chad, for submitting that. Hopefully you found some value in there, and you can kind of take our feedback, our advice, and use that to make your campaigns better. The next one is a company in Utah. Let me get logged in here. Use my right password.
I was thinking there's got to be some easier way than.
All right, I'm lazy like that. Yeah. So this is a fitness company in Utah. There's a couple of campaigns in here that we can look at depending on time. But the one that when I talked with Brooke, who's the owner, she wanted us to look at was this one. So here's kind of the story. Brooke's big focus for her business is to get monthly paying clients. She does they do like ballet bar fitness, which sounds like it's not a hard workout, but trust me, it kicked my butt when I did it.
That's not saying much though, right?
Oh no, it's saying a lot. I've been training pretty hard for this bike thing.
All right.
And it kicked my butt. It's tough. But anyway, so her clients pay about $100 a month to be able to come in and have unlimited access to the studio. They can come into any class whenever they want. They just have to sign up a little bit in advance, and they can go from there. So the way that she's doing that, her whole marketing funnel is to get people to sign up for a free class. Well, getting them to sign up for a free class is like a third of the battle. The other 2/3 of the battle is getting them to show up, and then also get to it, and then also getting them to sign up, right? And so we started, I actually helped her build, not this version, this was built by somebody else, but I helped her build just a very simple version of this about 6 months ago. And then after that, she started working with some other people to get this version built. And so just by way of just telling you, this campaign has helped her. I was talking to her last night. In January of this year, she was at 50 monthly paying clients, and she's at 82 right now, with a goal of 100 by the end of the year, which I think she'll smoke. So in about 6 months, she's from when she actually started doing this focused, driving everybody to the free class thing, she's grown her business by about 65%, which is freaking awesome for her, right? Wow. So this campaign is one of the things that has helped her to do that. So let me just kind of run you through it. So basically the idea is that they have a free class that she applies from her mobile phone. So she'll use the Infusionsoft mobile app, pull up their contact, and apply the tag because they have requested the free class on her website. And then there's a follow-up that goes along to stay in touch with them, basically. And then if they don't use it, it dumps them into this didn't use the free class process. The other thing is that because she's in Utah, a lot of people will go up to Utah, or they'll come into town for a short period of time, and they'll just sign up for the free class so that they can come and work out with their friend while they're in town. And so she wants to have a way to filter those people out. So all of these tags here are being applied by her on her mobile phone. Nice. So if somebody uses the class and it comes into here, and then ultimately the idea is that she wants to get them to buy, and if they buy, then it goes through here, and if they don't buy, it goes through here. All of her purchase stuff happens in MindBody Online, which is the system that she uses for scheduling and paying for classes and running credit cards and all of that fun stuff. So that's kind of the general idea. So let's kind of do the same thing, is let's just go through and say, all right, what do we think about the structure? What are some things that we like? What are the things that are confusing? What are the things that we would change?
So the last thing I said on the other one was the unnecessary lines. So that's where I go first, right? The line connecting the reminder to use pass sequence and the out-of-town tag goal, that diagonal line up top.
This one?
Yep. Yeah, that's totally unnecessary because that sequence is connected through the goal and sequence on the bottom. So when that goal is achieved, they're going to jump to that point anyways. Just the line, actually, Jordan.
This right here. This one right here?
Yeah.
So I don't know how long. This looks like a 24-day sequence.
Yeah.
If they come in, so that this would be came in, and they're from out of town.
Yep.
That means they're using their pass, right?
Right.
So that's why it's stopping this. So
yeah,
but you still think that's okay?
I think Greg's just saying that because it's already hooked up to that never used class sequence.
Yeah. So the line is just extra. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're saying that because of this path here.
Yep.
Okay. So that one could go away.
And then both the diagonal lines on the right, the same example, yeah. Either of those are necessary because it's connected through the 3-month nurture in the middle.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's more than just making it look pretty. I think that's actually a learning thing for people because I don't think when we get people, they don't realize. They'll just start doing this, and you'll see all these diagonals because they don't realize that because that end goal is there, it's going to pull all the way through. So actually, I think it's more than just even making it look pretty. They probably don't understand that that's how actually Infusionsoft's going to work it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote a blog post Monday. I'm writing these 3 campaign builder gotchas, and this is one of those learning curves. You know, if you take this to a 12-year-old, right, or 10-year-old or whatever, like they're not going to make that connection because they need the line showing you, hey, it goes from here to here.
Right.
It's not as intuitive, but you know, if you've used the campaign builder for a while, you start to establish that there's a flow, and the goals and the sequences aren't blocking. They kind of connect through one another, and you just kind of get to that point. So I don't think that's uncommon, as Nathan was saying. I think a lot of people make that connection right away because that's how they can visually represent it.
Yeah.
I would
that
actually.
totally makes sense. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
No, finish your thought.
I was going to say, even I forget that at times. Like I didn't even put that together. I forget that this actually stops anything that's previously connected, regardless of whether it's directly connected or not. So, go ahead, Paul.
So I would want to understand more about why do we have a never used free class goal. To me, if I was building this, I would just point reminder to use pass into never used class sequence.
Oh yeah.
There's no need for it. Once they're done with the reminder to use pass, if they don't use it, great. Automatically flow into never used class sequence. That saves us tags.
Better yet,
Cleanse our database.
I don't have a problem with where that it's applied. By the way, I didn't build this campaign, so I'm totally cool ripping it apart.
I'm still going to blame you for it.
This gets applied at the end of the campaign, so it's automatically doing that anyway. So yeah, you're right. I don't have a problem with the tag being applied, but you're right that the goal there is unnecessary.
Well, let's take our own medicine, guys. Let's make that a note and put them all in the same sequence. There's no reason to put that in two separate sequences, and it doesn't need to be a tag, right?
Possibly for reporting, though, Greg. There is some seeing has somebody how many people made it to never use last class. You can still do that with sequence step reporting.
Yeah, you can get there, but I get it. But a note rather than a tag is what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, you don't need a tag at all.
The only thing that I would say with that, though, the one thing where I feel like notes are probably not appropriate is when that's going to be the majority of the time, and it would still require the manual intervention, right? So, like, if Brooke all of a sudden gets 253 classes that month, and she's got 25 people that actually use it, it's counterintuitive and counterproductive to go and apply that note 225 times when it can just automatically be applied. I'd rather have Brooke spend her time applying the note for when they did use it. You know what I mean?
Jordan, I meant a note in the sequence. One that's
I see what you're saying. Not a note goal. Yeah. Okay.
And I'll jump in and say I would be applying both, because as a human, again, it's helpful to go there. But as reporting and metrics, I want to be able to see. I want a little dashboard widget that sits there and says, this is how many people have come in, this is how many people have never used it. So I actually would say I would have a note and a tag at the end of that sequence, but I'd get rid of that goal altogether.
Yeah, I think that we're all on the same page there. And sorry I went off on a soapbox, Greg.
I'm not. Nathan, can you help me understand why a sequence step report will, I guess, what's the reporting advantages you see of applying a tag based on just doing a campaign sequence step report?
Because a business owner doesn't want to go into a campaign and look at metrics. So a business owner wants to just come up to their dashboard and just say, this is the numbers a lot. So it's a different person in the business. I'm looking at maybe someone that actually doesn't do behind the scenes, and they just come in and I want to see money. So what's happening money-wise, and that's all they want to see. But then the other person like us who actually is maybe, we were going to look at, where are people pausing in these campaigns, and that's a different person than looking at the dashboard. So I want both those people happy.
Yeah.
Get him, Paul.
So what would the distinction be then between having a saved contact search for that tag that you put on your dashboard as a custom stat? What's the distinction between that and a saved sequence step report that you save on your dashboard?
No, that's fair. No, that'd be another way of doing it.
The same way. It's just mentally deciding where you're going to run the report.
And I think the only thing I like the tag though, because I like to go back and say I want all these people. And easily grab them and start marketing to them different too. So I don't think, but I like that idea of using that report for that. But then I still want that. I want those metrics there. I want to go back in history and find out who are those people easily.
And I think for me it's a combination of that and then being able to go back and say, show me all the people that requested the free pass but didn't use it.
Or people who did eventually. Show me the people who bought, but they didn't use that. They have that tag from the beginning, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's a lot harder to get to that value if you're not using the tag. Does that make sense, Paul? Yeah.
I'm still going to disagree here. Doing a tag report, doing a contact search for a tag, and then putting it as a custom stat is the exact same as doing a sequence step report and then putting it as a custom. In both cases, you can click on a number from your dashboard, and there's your list of people. Same action
Well,
drop downs.
what happens if I delete that campaign? Do I still get that report?
If you delete and unpublish that campaign,
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I think it would go away.
this thing's going away someday. Yeah, a year from now, I'm not going to have this anymore. But I still want to go a year from now and say, hey, who were all those people and how did we do it?
So why would you delete a campaign as opposed to
Oh, I delete campaigns all the time. I do not want 50 campaigns. And if I'm going to start, if I'm going to start redoing this, I'm creating a new campaign and then I'm deleting it once it's gone because it doesn't do any good to have it in there.
Well, that's the argument is that you're deleting data then, right? It's more than cluttering it. It's like there's history, and so if it's a campaign you've used, my best practice is to just kind of change the naming to retired, and then that's it. I don't delete them if it's been used.
All right, you guys keep all your campaigns.
Philosophical differences. That's what's cool about these calls is it's philosophical differences. There's lots of ways to skin a digital cat here. Every single answer we're giving is correct. It's just personal.
Hey, let's shift gears. Let's shift gears. Jordan, can you look at the beginning of this campaign?
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering what's in that filter if free class used tag exists on record. Yeah.
So I think if they've already requested a free class, it's saying, hey, you don't get another free class, cheapskate.
Right, but how could they be added twice if it's a tag application entry? Is what I'm getting at.
They got on their website. Actually, on the website, they could go enter that again. If you look on the website, they could have filled in that form again. But but it's tag based.
Yeah, it's a tag based.
Yeah, I'm
unless
not
it's
sure.
being removed, right? Well, I guess
decision mode. What's in there?
I presume it's looking for whether or not they have that free class used tag. Or either. Or free class used on its own. Yeah.
So, is that logic broken? Because we're using negatives, we're saying doesn't contain blank or blank. Wouldn't that want to be it doesn't contain free class used and?
No. There's two separate sequences.
Right. Well, I'm saying the logic, though, because it doesn't contains, it's negative. So we're saying it doesn't contain both of those tags.
Yeah, I think it is.
There's only one tag.
There's two.
There's two in the rule.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you draw out the Carnot map for it, it's...
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Doesn't contain and doesn't contain. Because in this case,
right.
the top one's going to fire... Well, you can still do doesn't Yeah, that works too. There you go. But yeah, when you're using negative logic, that gets way screwy. You have to be a big nerd like me to catch it.
It's up here, right?
Yeah, it's way up there. It's in the ceiling, man.
Like over my head.
Greg, you're awesome. I miss you.
I miss you too, Paul. Yeah. So for this one, what I was getting at is that they're getting put into this campaign. I think you said from her phone, so she's applying this tag.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't be able to be added more than once unless she's also removing that tag. And if she is, I'd be curious why we're re-inviting them then.
Yeah.
Why she wants that use case. Like, under what circumstances? Unless they never used it, and so we want to give them the option to invite them again. But at that point, it might be worth sending them a different invite. Hey, here's the second go around, and try a different approach because the first one didn't do it.
Yeah. So that's something I need to talk with Brooke about. I didn't even catch that. So yeah, I think that's great. All right. Cool. What about this one? The end of it here. We kind of talked about the part of it. What are your thoughts there?
First, I want to point out it's awesome. Nice job, Brooke. Because we have it it's pretty damn brilliant.
Yeah, and congrats on the you said highest month so far, right?
Yeah. So she had in it was the other campaign that had the highest month. That she did the best month she'd ever had. It was for people that have gone through and gotten a free pass and didn't sign up, or people that didn't, or that were customers but canceled. She did a huge campaign in July, which is usually her slowest month, and she got to $10,000 in revenue that month, or it's actually almost 11,000, when she's normally doing like 5 or 6. So it's pretty awesome for her. But this is the one that's getting her that uptick in her monthly recurring customer base. So
yeah, one thing, I mean, you start getting because I think all the big stuff's handled. All of her buckets, you know, they seem to be handled pretty well. Some of it does start coming down to the copy in there and the content. Is she using video? Like for what she's doing, their clients would love video. Kimberly works here, does one of these kind of courses. She's like, oh my God, I love this thing. And then how she's doing the free going into the SOAR. Like if you do a free class, I think that's just freaking brilliant. But like videos, are there videos in these content? I think that's a huge one to get people in. The one thing I was going to say is actually, this kind of goes away, is the big thing, because she has another campaign I think we're going to talk about, which is getting them back in. The big thing that I see is actually after they buy, all these gyms, there's a magic number. There's a magic number of how many times you need to get someone there before they'll either fall away or they'll turn into like a year-long or a lifelong client.
yeah.
So it's almost like, I think this is handled well. I would be saying maybe add some more, but the real money now is how do we make sure they get past that point. So it's almost like the next campaign is the one I would be wanting to look at.
Right.
Back to you guys. I just wanted to throw that in there because I think this one she's doing so great, but I'd be saying, well, now that we got people on, how do we get them past that? Is it 5 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Where do people drop out? Because that's where we need to make sure we're doing the most with them to get them past that point.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's interesting. I just read an article about Netflix. They did a study. You know, they've got some brilliant data scientists. They did a study on when people actually get hooked on a TV series. And conventional wisdom has always said that the pilot of a new TV series has been the most important. But what they actually found is that every show is different. There's kind of a tipping point where 70% of the people that started watching a show actually watch every single episode of the show. So every show is different. So it's really interesting. And I think you're spot on with that, is that there is that tipping point where people get over that hurdle of like, how many times do I want to go, or how many times does someone need to go before they actually become a lifelong customer, and then how can we build an automated experience to help encourage them to get to that point. So yeah, I think that's a great point. Well, so here's the thing. I would love to go in and do more campaigns, but we got about 7 minutes left on our scheduled time. And I've got a wife at home that's waiting for me to get home so that she can go do some stuff. I wanted to give you guys a couple of seconds to talk about what you're doing, how people can follow you, how people can stay engaged with you, and then we'll just kind of wrap things up. So, Greg, why don't you go first?
Cool. Yeah, so first of all, thanks, Jordan, for putting this together. This type of stuff is super exciting. You know, you can tell when you hear Paul and Nathan and I and you know, the emotion that we put into the stuff, that we kind of geek out on it. And Paul's right. There's a lot of different ways to approach this. I think Nathan said early on that, you know, he's looking for people who are more of the done-for-you mentality, right? And I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? I want the people who are looking to take ownership of their application, who really want the fundamental building blocks. They want to understand it. They want to roll it up. If you're the type of person who's not interested in that, you know, and that's totally fine, then you know, you're probably not going to get a whole lot out of my content, because I try to go really deep so that you could have that understanding. So that's the Monkey Pod marketing side of what I'm doing. And if you want to follow me, I'm pretty active on Twitter. It's @InfusionGreg. And you're certainly welcome to reach out to me that way, or if you're more comfortable, just shoot me an email. It's greg@monkeypodmarketing.com. I love solving problems, so stuff like this I get super excited about, because it's fun to dig in and kind of see, you know, what's working and how do we do more of it, or what's not and where can we improve. And I did put together an offer for the group that's listening today. So it's www.monkeypodmarketing.com /Jordan. And I think you've got it in the showcase there as well, right?
Yep.
And that's it's actually my 5 lessons of automation. So some of you may have seen it. It's one of the first lead magnets that I put together for MonkeyPod Marketing. But it's 5 lessons that I learned or gathered or collected during the 3.5 years I was at Infusionsoft working with small businesses in different capacities. And they're not super technical. They're much higher level strategic lessons. So that's part of why I wanted to get back to that and re-emphasize some of those important lessons.
What was that URL, Greg?
It's www.monkeypodmarketing.com and then /Jordan, as in Mr. Hatch here.
Okay. So for those that are listening, the www is critical if you just do monkeypodmarketing.com.
Yeah, it's a lead pages page, and if you don't have the www, it goes to one of my 404 pages. So thanks for calling that out, Paul.
Yeah, gotcha. I want to see what you got,
Totally.
One of these days, Greg, we'll figure out how to fix that. So
yes, someone smarter than me. If you know how to make that www not required. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jordan.
You said someone smarter than you, so I had to.
Well, that's not in short supply. There's plenty of folks smarter than me, but.
Yeah, so let me just echo what Greg said. The content that Greg has put together is awesome. He's given me a preview of all of it. It's stellar. The other thing I want to commend Greg on is he's put together a really awesome group for any of his paid customers. The MonkeyPod Grove, it has what I would consider the best panel of experts of any of the Facebook groups that are out there. You literally cannot get access to more Infusionsoft experts than you can through the MonkeyPod Grove. So if you want to find out more information about that, I'd highly recommend you go and hit up Greg for that. All right, Nathan, your turn.
All right, well that's perfect, Greg, because I think we're on different sides of how we do it. So like Greg mentioned, we're actually more about you want to meet monthly, you want to talk about revenue, and then we do it for you. So I think it's definitely a little bit different. Our clients they do not want to get into the campaigns. They just want to make sure their campaigns are making them money. And it's, and we educate them. We'll educate their staff. That's a little where it's different. Where we will get people involved, but we're usually educating on what we were talking about. Now you'd be using this internal form and do that kind of thing. So it's definitely a different approach where we're going after with our clients. And we start with strategy. So what I put together for this call is basically, if you're going to put it out there, because mine actually, we did it way too late in the day to even put it on our website. So it's a lead pages one. I won't even say it, but it's
it's in the showcase.
It's in the showcase because it's what's next strategy. But basically, it's a 45-minute strategy session. And it's not a cheesy one where we're going to say purchase right now. It's actually we'll just walk through. We'll probably do what we did here, saying, what do you want to do? Let's talk about something. This is where we think you would go. You want us to do it? Awesome. If you want to do it yourself, take it, run, and make some money. So if you want to follow just us in general, on thefuse.com.au, that's a fuse with a Z, depending on which part of the world you're at, or just on the Fuse Twitter. And thank you for this, though, because these are fun. I actually I like Paul Sokol saying, what are you talking about doing tags? And I'm like, well, you don't know Paul. And so I love this stuff. So thanks for the invite.
So thanks for coming on. Now, do you work with just customers in Australia, or do you work with anybody around the world?
In general, we're Australia, or Southern Hemisphere, but we still have clients, quite a few in UK, and we still have clients in the States. So in general, though, most people, but there's enough time difference in the States that as long as you're willing to work after 3 p.m., then we're willing to work with you.
Awesome. Cool.
What about Paul?
Paul's turn.
I've done nothing for you people. No lead magnets. I don't have a business of my own. I
give you this platform, hawk your and you don't have a lead capture.
Donate to Paul's charity.
That's a lie. That's a lie. I do have a lead
Paul's
capture.
charity.
That's true. There's actually 2 ways that you can support what I'm about and what I'm doing. So If you go to paulsokol.me, I have an inner circle under the hair newsletter. Maybe once a month or so, I'll send you something that's cool and highly valuable. Greg, are the newsletters valuable? Do you find value in them?
I do, but I'm your perfect customer. I'm totally in your target demo.
That's Nathan. Are you on my list?
I've never gotten an invite, Paul, and I'm a little hurt now that I've even found out about it.
I invite you to go to paulsokol.me right now and sign up. The other thing you can do is there's actually, for those listening, if you're hanging out with us on the webinar, there's a big problem in the world right now that school budgets are being slashed left and right, and it's forcing cornered administrators to make difficult choices to cut programs, particularly arts programs. And music in particular gets hit real hard because music equipment is expensive. And if this continues to happen, in a couple of generations, we're not going to have any new musicians, and it's going to be all talk radio, and I absolutely refuse to live into that world. And that's why I created Keep Children Rockin', and we are a charity that provides equipment donations to underfunded elementary and middle school music programs. And you can go to keepchildrenrockin.org and make a donation today. And frankly, I would prefer that as opposed to joining my newsletter, because that money goes pretty much directly to equipment for kids, and joining my newsletter just makes me feel cool. But
although they're not mutually exclusive, just to be clear, you could do both.
You can do both? Okay, good.
You could do both.
That works.
You can do both if you want.
Yeah. So I just added that to the showcase. So if you look in the showcase, it'll pop up there. So cool, awesome. Thank you guys for coming on the inaugural Mastermind panel. I hope you guys had fun. I know I did. We talked about some great stuff, had a little bit of drama. Thanks, Paul. And I'm excited to do these again when I get back. I think it went really well, and I'm really grateful for you guys coming on and being guinea pigs, but also for sharing your expertise. So thank you. I will send out an email to everybody with the links that we talked about today. And also a link to the recording. This fancy schmancy Google company, I don't know whoever they are, they automatically record this and pop it into YouTube for me. So I'll send out the link to the YouTube video as soon as it's done, and this can be enjoyed by people for forever, which is awesome. So thank you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys on future calls and having you guys back as panelists. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you guys later.
Enjoy the trip, Jordan.
Yeah, dude, have a good ride.
See you guys.